tonight. Good evening, everyone. This is Jody Hammer, Career Services Specialist from NPCA's Global Reentry Program. Thank you for joining us tonight to spend some time listening to our very special guest host from TCP Global, which is an amazing company started by RPCVs that can help facilitate loans in your countries of service. And it's a really unique program. And you're going to have the privilege of listening to people talk about what it is, workers there, and also people who are evacuees who've already been able to leverage this type of program in their communities. So we have a really great night ahead of us, and without any further ado, I would like to turn it over to Zachary, or Zach, I guess, from TCP to introduce yourself and get us started.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jody, and a big thank you to also Bethany and everyone at the NPCA for giving us this forum to share a little bit about our organization, TCP Global, and all that we're doing in our communities around the world, especially since COVID and since evacuation a couple months ago. So first, a little background about me. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Colombia from 2018 to 2020. And just towards the end of my service, I was evacuated along with my cohort. But during my time in my site, I had started a loan program through TCP Global in my community. And after being evacuated, I had a lot of interest in getting to know more about the organization, and have joined a team full of very passionate, super smart leaders to continue implementing this program post-COVID. So thank you so much to all of you for coming today, and we're excited to share a little bit more about our organization. Also, I would like to say that our colleague, my team member, Andrew Koch, he is going to post a sign-up form, a Google Sheet, if you're interested in the chat. If you're interested in getting on our email list or hearing more about our organization, you can follow that link. Okay, so first, a little agenda. I'm going to have some co-presenters of the other team members from our, from our TCP Global team: Carlin, Calvin, Elise, and Andrew. They're going to be introducing themselves as they come up a little bit later in the presentation, but you're going to hear some, cool stories from them. But to start, we're going to do a quick little program overview about what TCP Global is, show a little bit about the impact that we get to make around the world, hear some stories from the field, and then see how we hope that some of you will be getting involved if if this seems of interest to you. And then lastly, a little bit of Q&A time. So without further ado, here we go. TCP Global is a nonprofit that was founded in 2000 in Bogota, Colombia, with the help of some PCVs, some social workers, community leaders of Colombia, some attorneys. And the mission of this organization is really twofold. One is to provide affordable loans to entrepreneurs in marginalized communities. These are people that are pretty much locked out of the formal banking sector and don't really have access to capital to grow their businesses. So we go into these hard to reach communities and help set up loan programs where they can get access to really low interest loans to grow their businesses. And then the second mission that in many ways is even the cooler aspect is that we support effective NGOs and grassroots organizations in these communities, and they get access to the interest income, and there's a couple other ways to generate income as well for these organizations, and then they can use those funds, their earnings, to implement projects in their communities that they're based on what the organization is already doing. Sometimes this is infrastructure projects like building roads, or providing food to vulnerable families, doing education projects, things of that nature. So the way that we achieve these goals is, first, we find existing change makers in these communities. So I think, as I saw in the chat, a lot of you are previous Peace Corps volunteers, and I think we all know that no matter what community you go to, there's always leaders that are already there making a difference and making really important impact in their community. So we find people that are already change makers that already exist in these communities, and then we help them set up microloan programs in their communities, and they're the ones administering it according to, you know, they understand the norms and the culture of their community. So we really empower them to set it up in whatever way makes sense to them. And what we do is then we provide mentorship and shoulder a lot of the administrative burden of you know, reporting the loans, tracking the loans, things of that nature. So that's sort of the 3 steps that we go forward with to you know, implement these programs around the world. Now we have a short video to explain a little bit more in detail how TCP Global works. Bear with me, sometimes the embedded videos don't work, so let me know if this isn't coming through, but here we go.
Hi, I'm John, and I'd like to tell you about TCP Global and the kind of work that we do. So what is TCP Global? We're a team of consultants based in the US, and we help finance microloan programs all around the world. By enabling NGOs to create their own microloan programs, we both support marginalized entrepreneurs and help create revenue streams for those nonprofits. Now, you might be wondering, what makes TCP Global so special? Over almost 2 decades of work, we have funded NGOs with missions that range from primary education to health to economic empowerment and community organization. In this way, we make our services available to a wide variety of NGOs. After all, our objective is to support NGOs' missions, not to change them. With TCP Global, the bottom line is pretty simple. As long as the NGO and its programs qualify and meet our criteria, they never have to send any money back to us, and we never get involved with their decision-making process. Now, let's get down to brass tacks. How does a TCP Global microloan program actually work? Our objective is to help fund organizations that are already working on the ground. So, in order to qualify for a TCP Global microloan grant, an organization has to meet a few requirements. First, they need to be a registered NGO in their country. Second, they need to have a bank account. And finally, they need to serve a poor, high-needs community. Now, for NGOs that meet these requirements, we grant funds to start a microloan program, usually in installments of $1,500 US. This $1,500 is then used by the NGO to finance microloans in the local entrepreneurial community. This microloan program implemented by the NGO does have to meet a few requirements. 1. The funds must go towards something that produces revenue. 2. The interest rates on the loan cannot exceed the local bank rates. And 3. The program must be established in compliance with the local laws. Although we at TCP Global do have our own recommendations to maximize the success and sustainability of the microloan program, as long as the NGO's program fits within these criteria, they are free to lend out the funds however they see fit. Now, perhaps the most important part of the lending process is what comes next. Once those $1,500 have been lent out by the NGO and been repaid twice, the NGO is eligible to receive more funds from us. In other words, we can send them an additional $1,500. And the best part is that once the NGO passes this benchmark of twice lent and twice repaid, they're able to keep half of everything we send them. Or put into other words, they're able to keep $750 for every $1,500 that we send them. Using our model, NGOs have earned an average of $2,000 per year, which they use for running their own NGO, paying helpers, purchasing equipment, financing special projects, and more. And finally, although US Peace Corps volunteers often serve as facilitators in these programs, they cannot directly oversee the program itself. That is up to the NGO. If you'd like to reach out to us, or if you need more information, go to www.columbiaproject.org or TCP Global's Facebook page. For specific questions, you can email our director, Helene Dudley, at helenedudley@yahoo.com.
So one quick note is that our website has changed. So the website that you'll see and that one of my colleagues will post in the chat is our latest website. So the one in the video is out of date. But hold on, how do we get out of here? Okay, so it's TCP Global's impact. So in the 20 years since we've been founded, TCP Global has provided over $160,000 of funding to 35 different communities in 14 countries. So you can see on this map, this shows sort of the breadth of where we have programs. And this $160,000 of funding has led to over $750,000 in loans to local entrepreneurs in these communities. And then from those $750,000 of loans have come over $107,000 in earnings for these partners in their communities to fund the projects, like building roads and latrines, training programs, and other support for their community. And I think most recently, the thing on everyone's mind has been COVID relief, and our partners have been very active and present using their earnings for COVID relief. In the last few months, our partners have used over $10,000 of their earnings for COVID relief, and going to lots of different things, to food drives for their community members that have lost, their jobs or had economic hardship due to COVID-19. Also providing masks and PPE to the communities, and then also just continuing to make loans despite COVID-19 to businesses that might be pivoting their business due to COVID-19. Maybe certain markets that were previously, selling certain products are now trying to pivot to soap and need loans to fund, buying soap in advance, things like that. So our partners have been very active during this COVID-19 crisis, and we continue to support them throughout this crisis as well. So now I'm going to pass it off to Carlin, Calvin, and Elise, three of our team members that have started programs in their sites. And these three cases are really interesting because all three of them had started their programs either since being evacuated or maybe right as they were getting evacuated. So their stories and their experiences and recommendations, I think, should be really useful to any of you that have interest in trying to pursue this option for your communities as well. So with that, I will hand it over to Carlin.
Hi, my name's Carlin. I was an education volunteer in Liberia from 2018 to the evacuation. During my service, I had a couple of different sites, and in my second one, I got connected with a group called Bosh Bosh. The photos are there. Bosh Bosh is an NGO about women's empowerment and girls' education. There are a few different sides. They do the production business side of selling African style like bags and accessories that you can see in the photo. And then they use those funds to have a scholars program for girls after school and help with their education. And they do a few different community things as well, but it's really about the girls' education. They were founded in 2011 with another Peace Corps volunteer. So when I came into the site, it was not the assumption, but it was rather the opportunity to be able to work with them really easily. So then when I got there, I helped them with their business development, kind of, but really with their education mission. Go ahead. Okay. I heard about TCP Global in like an RPCV Facebook group posted, and I watched that same video. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Bosh Bosh would be great for this, like it would help them. It would give them, the means to help the community more. So I immediately like WhatsApped the president, Yama. She's pictured in the pink shirt and black skirt there. I was like, hey Yama, like watch this video. What do you think? Is this something you're interested in? And she was like, of course, like that sounds awesome. So I submitted whatever they asked for on the website, asking for more information. And I was expecting it to kind of end there and hand it off to Yama and have her go through. But then I was able to get involved as a mentor and help Yama and the team there work through like the different stages. There was a lot of build up and communications and, you know, figuring out how to start this program on the ground, and a lot of webinars with TCP Global, a lot of email chains. We were able to make a team on the ground who could help give out the money, you know, help spread the word, decide our criteria for giving out loans and things. And we just finally last week got our first round of loans out into the community. And now we get to start documenting. So the work, we're still figuring it out. But I have been really thankful for TCP Global and their help with it, and for providing this opportunity in the first place. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlin. Now I'm going to pass it over to Calvin.
Hello, this is Calvin. I was posted in Zambia, and we did environmental and agricultural work. In my village, we ended up creating a cooperative back in 2019 with the intent to do a beekeeping program, which we eventually did with the Peace Corps grant. And it was named after the Kabuchi Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society because Ka is the diminutive and Ibuchi means honey, so in Bemba. At one point, I had lent out a magazine and to a number of other people in the community, and they saw the TCP Global in the Worldview, or in an article in the Worldview, and they asked me if they were interested, and they asked me to contact Helen. So I sent an email to her, and she seemed interested. Eventually, I connected them, all of them, to Kabuchi, and after showing them the video that you had seen earlier, we were able to sign everything and eventually issue the first. And eventually, we were able to receive the loans and distribute them back in March, which was right before I got evacuated. Since then, they've been going through it, although some of their plans have changed since because of COVID. I think one person had planned to do a bar, but now they can't do that anymore.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, Calvin. And lastly, now we're going to pass it over to Elise, who is also in Colombia. Over to you, Elise.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I was serving in Colombia in a town called Huachaca, and I was assigned to work with a cacao farming collective called Guardabosques. And essentially, they support farmers with growing higher quality cacao and increasing their quantity of cacao and connecting to international buyers so they can receive higher prices for their cacao. And during my Peace Corps service, I worked with the organization at large, but I primarily focused my time working with a group of women who not only grew the cacao, but then turned it into artisanal chocolate desserts. And I learned about TCP Global through training. Andrew actually, who's going to speak later, he came and talked to us about TCP Global, and I thought it was super interesting and kind of realized that Guardabosques actually met the criteria of being an NGO, of having a bank account, of kind of meeting TCP Global's criteria. So this was recently in 2020, in the beginning of the year. I talked to my counterparts, they loved the idea. It took us a while to set up. So we had some problems transferring the money, and then kind of poor timing, I was evacuated. But so while I was evacuated, we were actually able to, or post my evacuation, we were able to still send the money and start the program remotely. So I was actually just hands off, and they did a wonderful job. We just had our first round of loans last month, and it's been seeming to go really well. And now I'm also a mentor. I think the biggest success, especially being remote and working with the association and this program, has been finding field partners who really understand the community and are able to adapt the program to the community's needs. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Elise. And thank you to all of our presenters, Carlin, Calvin, and Elise. They've been really great resources for us as we've been sort of navigating how to start opening up these programs after, you know, everyone was evacuated in March. So they're definitely huge resources for us. So the next question is, how can I get involved? There's really two different ways to get involved with TCP Global. The first is the community development mentor. That is really similar to the role that Elise, Calvin, and Carlin were describing, where you're really a connector and a cheerleader and a support system. And really the primary responsibilities for the this mentor role is to connect a local NGO in your community to TCP Global, help them get the agreement set up, help them, you know, meet the requirements of legalization if they need that, if they need to legalize their organization or open a bank account, and then supporting them, you know, checking in with them every week or so. And this would be a good role for you if, you know, you already are really connected with your site, or you really hope to maintain and continue working or continue a working relationship with your community. The language skills are, you know, it's a good opportunity to practice that. So if you have, you know, interpersonal skills and really want to continue in down that path, this would be a really good role for you. And then this is sort of this other role, the reporting analyst, is a new role that we're starting to play with. But the reporting analyst, they really, like I mentioned, one of our objectives is to shoulder as much of the administrative burden and sort of the more tedious aspects from our program administrators in the site. And the reporting analyst is really helpful with that. And also to help measure the impact that we have. You know, that's only through reports and tracking do we get to know how much of an impact we've made around the world with our funds. So this responsibility really focuses on helping process the loan reports, supporting the IT team. And I think it might sound a little intimidating. I'm definitely the technical expertise required to do this role is very low. So I think if you just have a moderate experience in Excel, but if this is an area of interest for you, and also if you value schedule flexibility and being able to work on your own time, this would be a good role for you. So give me 1 second here to get my mouse. So this is a sort of a diagram that shows the structure of TCP Global. The most important person to our organization is definitely the program administrators in the site. Those are these blue bubbles. So there'd be a program administrator in each site where we have one of these programs. And they're the ones that are interacting and dealing with the borrowers, these teal bubbles. So you'll see that none of the red, the yellow, and the black bubbles are sort of more of the headquarters team of TCP Global. None of these three roles are touching the borrowers, touching the money, interacting. We don't really have any say over which types of you know, borrowers get money, which businesses. And this is really one of the ways that we keep a really low, like sort of zero overhead organization by being very hands-off in the loan process. Then you'll see the community development mentor. This was the role of Carlin, Calvin, and Elise, and they sort of sit next to the program administrator. They're really a team. That's why they're so, you know, closely attached there. They're troubleshooting problems together. They're walking through, you know, any issues that might come up and really supporting each other. Then on a monthly basis, this team, the program administrator community development team or mentor team, will submit their daily log, their report, to the reporting analyst, who will do a little bit of processing and error checking. And then the reporting analyst submits it to this black bubble, which is the database manager. And that is our teammate, Kurt. He is, you know, really an expert on sort of the whole managing of databases, and he makes reports every month and then would submit those back to the reporting analyst for sort of another layer of review and analysis to see maybe to check maybe the repayment rate, maybe the maybe there's certain borrowers that are running a little behind on repayment, or maybe the program administrator has some earnings that they've earned but haven't withdrawn yet to use for community projects. So that's sort of the general structure of our program here. Now, I want to drill down a little bit into the responsibilities and time commitments for these two positions. I think both of them are pretty low time commitment roles, and that's one of the, I think, really the big appeals for this is a way to, continue making a difference without dedicating too much time. First, with the community development mentor, the first step is really facilitating that NGO agreement, which it really depends on the organization how long this takes. Because it's really, you have to check those two boxes of being a legalized organization and having a bank account set up. I know for my community, my organization was already a legalized organization, but didn't have a functioning bank account. So we sort of had to deal with the bureaucracy of getting that set up before we could get the agreement signed. But once we got the bank set up, it was a really smooth process, and this didn't take that long. And then afterwards, we estimate it's really about 10 minutes a week that you're checking in with your program administrator. Maybe that's a WhatsApp, maybe that's a phone call, maybe that's a WhatsApp message, and then cheerleading them, celebrating them as they hit successes, as they get loans paid off, and we estimate that's about 10 minutes a week. So this is about a 40-minute per month responsibility following the initial agreement. And then on the other side, we estimate it's about the same with the reporting analyst. Every month, the log is submitted to the reporting analyst, who does it, goes through a checklist, double check some of the data, make sure that it's all running smoothly. And then after Kurt processes the information and submits a summary report, then there's another couple steps, another checklist that the reporting analyst does for an estimate of like 35 to 40 minutes per month. And one thing I want to note is a lot of our mentors are playing both of these roles. So like, I know, again, for me, I'm the mentor. I continue to have a relationship with my partner in the site, and I'm also doing the reporting analysis. So you have to sort of scale the time commitment accordingly. And additionally, we have some people on our team, Helene Dudley, our director, who is the mentor and analyst for many sites and spends tons of time doing both of these steps. So again, really the beauty of being involved in this organization is you can really scale and be as involved as you want. If you have a lot of availability right now and really want to take a lot of leadership in this organization, there's definitely an opportunity to take a big role and dedicate a lot of time to this. Or if you want to mentor your community and that's all you have time for, we are very ecstatic to accept you for that role as well. So I think that's all I have. Now I'm going to pass it over to our teammate Andrew, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the other benefits of joining the TCP Global team.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Koch, and I was a community economic volunteer in Colombia from 2016 to 2018. First got involved with TCP when I helped start a microloan program with the local NGO in Fundación Magdalena, Colombia, back in 2017. Helene had given a presentation to my cohort of volunteers and was really looking to expand, especially at that point in time in Colombia. And proud to say that the program that I helped start back in 2017 is still running today. It's for every $1 that they've received, they've lent it out 4 times. Certainly had its challenges along the way, but at the end of the day, we've had some really impressive results. So I've continued to work with TCP after service at the board level, but also serving as a mentor for our Peru program, which has also been very successful. So I'll quickly touch on some of the more personal benefits that you can get from joining our team. I put those in like 2 buckets. First is a great opportunity to continue to learn in the international development context. and ultimately translate that into the professional side, whether that's stories for interviews, bullets on resume, or getting into graduate school. So on the learning piece, it's, there's no more hands-on international development experience than Peace Corps, but this will allow you to continue to do that, and specifically with quantifiable results. I know I personally, and I think I can speak for just about all volunteers, that there's certainly days when it's frustrating to not see the impact that you're driving, right? We're always told as volunteers that what you're doing takes years, if not decades, to change, right? And I still very much believe in that, but not being able to see that quantifiable change day to day is challenging. But with TCP, you're able to see down to the last dollar, peso, sol, what kind of change you're driving, and that's really impressive. Finally, just like kind of where we are as TCP right now. We're zero overhead. All donations go to microloans, and it's also, while we are 20 years old, the lion's share of our growth has come in the last 2.5 years as we've expanded out, especially our expansion outside of Latin America. I think it took us a while to get the right model, have the right partner filtration system, and also have a better understanding of our finances. And I think we're there, and we're kind of in the point now of high growth. And so the opportunity for you as a mentor, as a partner of ours, to learn in this context is really applicable, whether it's you're working for a high growth business, you're trying to grow your services at a nonprofit. There's a lot to be learned with us, and learn along with us, because we still are, of course, learning all the time. Finally, a little plug for our team. Primarily RPCVs, but we have people that served across many generations of Peace Corps and across the entire world. And so it's fun, as well as building a network there. So that ultimately translates into really high impact stories that you can tell on a graduate school application, in an interview. This is a pretty unique story, and something that's very tangible that you can show in interviews and ways to advance your career. Yeah, ultimately, I think, and it certainly has been for me in my own personal situation, a great way to continue to learn, and as I seek to grow in the international development community. Personal anecdote, it certainly helped when I applied to graduate school after leaving Peace Corps. So I think that about wraps up our presentation. I know we've got many good questions in the chat, and between myself, Zach, Calvin, and all of our other presenters, we're happy to answer those questions.
Great, thank you so much. I'm sure many of you have looked at the chat box here. I'm just going through it a little bit, and there was one question. The first question just was to clarify. It was to be clear, this is not a program to be administered by NPCA affiliate groups, correct? The affiliate groups like the RPCVs of Washington, D.C., or the RPCVs Friends of Zambia, or those kind of affiliate groups, correct?
So I think kind of two answers there. As far as being the organization in this community that's administering the program, no, I think we want a group that's a little bit closer to the ground, that really knows the community, knows the borrowers, and that's how we found success in the past. But we have had a lot of success of connecting with these affiliate groups, the friends of groups, to connect us with organizations in the various countries. So they're not they provide the mentor role, so to speak, for a lot of these programs, but they're not the ones that are actually receiving the funds and receiving the payments, issuing new loans. That is sort of reserved for the people on the ground in the community.
Great. Okay, wonderful. And then Bryce asked a question, and I'm not sure who this would be best for, but are there plans to build the capacity of local partners in terms of management and reporting? I don't know if this is an appropriate question for Helene or whoever. Thank you.
I can take it if you'd like.
Okay.
So I think for one of the principles that we take most seriously is not overburdening our partners. So frankly, the reporting that we require them to do is quite simple. It's just an Excel sheet with the name of the borrower and whether they're getting a loan or paying it back. That being said, we, and especially, you know, in our roles as mentors to the specific sites, additional training, reporting, you know, different issues like that, we can certainly step in and help there if the partner wants that. But I think a lot of times we try to take a little bit more hands-off approach on the reporting side. Now, that being said, while I was a volunteer, a big thing that the organization that I helped start a microloan program with was they were very focused on education and then the training aspect. So all folks, all the small businesses that were taking out loans from us ultimately went through our training course. And I helped facilitate those courses alongside my partner there. That course is a little more difficult right now, not being a Peace Corps volunteer on the ground. But we do have the resources, knowledge, and experience to share with partners if that's something that they're interested in doing. Blaine, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that the mentors can help the partner do is identify projects maybe where they could invest their earnings. Most of our partners are very reluctant to take anything out of the pot because they think they're taking money away from poor people. So the mentor works with them, reassures them that if you take out your earnings, we'll send you more money so that you can expand the program. So partners, it was my experience as a Peace Corps volunteer in Slovakia that the organizations that were really good at actually working with communities and helping people improve their lives were not the ones that were out there networking and getting access to international dollars. So this is a way that they can establish a steady revenue stream to support their various projects. I know in Swan, they give a lot of workshops. In Fundación, they're helping people, providing meals out in the communities. They provide equipment for the handicapped people down in the interior of Colombia. Whatever need they have in their community, this gives them the resources that they need. And also, most of our partners are the more humble type who aren't always standing there with their hands out. So the mentor can get involved and just advise them, you qualify for more funds if you want to expand. We also don't want them to expand, to continue expanding beyond their capability. We want to find that sweet spot where they have enough money, but not so much that they get overwhelmed. So the partner helps them, the mentor helps them to grow as much as they want to grow and to be very stable. And also helps with when there's collection problems or something of that nature. And mostly we encourage them. It's hard to be out there in the trenches, lending out money and taking back payments. And it's important for the mentor to recognize the good work that's being done by the partners and acknowledge that.
Great. Let's see, we have another question. We have one question that was about what hasn't worked. Let me just get to it. I'm sorry, I went back here. What has not worked, Catherine asks, i.e., can you speak to examples and root causes of something great that was initiated but perhaps did not make it to the finish line?
Yeah, certainly we've had our challenges over the years. When the program started in Fundación, for example, the partner went in with wonderful intentions of giving to the most needy people in the community. We don't second guess them. We're not there on the ground, but what she should have done was give the loans to the people who really understood the program and were in the best position to pay back. So by giving to the most needy people with really no assurance that they were going to pay back, she got into a delinquent situation very quickly where she didn't qualify for more funds. So she was digging herself out of a hole for like the first year and a half. We want to give it to really needy people, but you want to find the low-hanging fruit that's going to serve as a good example for other people in the community. It's a really bad example to start off with people who don't pay the loans back because that sends out a bad message. Another thing that didn't work, that doesn't work is we've worked with a lot of nuns in Colombia who did an excellent job, and then the order transfer one nun out and put another one in. It takes a certain kind of personality who's a risk taker, but they believe in their community. When you bring in a new person who maybe doesn't have that same trust bond with the community, the program doesn't work so well. So we've had some problems in converting from, and changing from one administrator to another. In another instance, we tweaked our model so that we could qualify for a Rotary grant. And the Rotary model required us to remove some of our incentives for good behavior. And that was a harsh lesson learned. If we have a good model that works really well, we want to keep our focus on helping the entrepreneurs, helping the poor entrepreneurs to do well with their projects instead of changing our criteria to meet some grant requirements. You know, we have to always keep our focus on what's good for the community rather than what's good for the grantor.
Great. Okay. We have some more questions coming in, and if you haven't yet asked yours and you do have questions, please just throw them into the chat box and we'll get through as many as we can. We have a little over 15 minutes left, so we should be able to answer several more questions. For example, Cecilia asks, if my NGO meets all the requirements and is working on multiple communities in the area of my site, can more than one loan be accessed per community, or is it limited to just one loan per organization at a time? Andrew, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So maybe just a point of clarification. When TCP gives money to, I guess what we were saying, when we give money to a community, that comes no strings. Well, it comes with no expectation or a requirement that it will be repaid back to TCP. That's a gift, right? So we give the gift to the partner, and that partner is that local NGO. There's no problem if it serves multiple communities. For instance, the program that I mentor in Peru serves a more urban area called Trujillo, and then also a rural mountainous region called Otusco out of the same microloan pool. So what we're giving is a gift to that local partner, and then where the local partner wants to lend, so the loan agreement is between the local partner and the entrepreneur in that community, and how the local partner wants to administer the program, what kinds of entrepreneurs they want to serve, we leave that largely up to them. And so, to put a rough number on it, when my program, and this is pretty typical with $1,500, at least in Latin America, usually it'll go to like 10 or 15 loans. So you start out with that base of 10 to 15 entrepreneurs that the local partner has, and that grows over time, usually topping out around 30 to 40 loan recipients at any given time. But again, that's something that's totally up to the discretion of the local partner. And the only requirement that we have with them is that they send back that simple Excel monthly report, so that we can track with our partners and help solve problems where needed.
Great. This next question might be either for you, Andrew, or Helene maybe is the most appropriate one to answer it. It's from Adam, and he asks, interested in hearing more about the numbers as they affect the people receiving the capital. Interest rates to counterpart organizations, repayment terms. Have there been defaults, potential difficulties for partner organizations? I think you spoke to a little bit of that latter part already, but if one of you would like to take this one, thanks.
Okay, we count a loan as active, not delinquent if it's made a payment within the last 6 months. These are poor people, so maybe they can't make monthly payments like they had hoped to. So for loans that have not had a payment in the last 6 months, we have something like overall like a 98% good repayment rate.
Wow, that's great.
And the telling statistic is one that Zach mentioned earlier. We've sent 160,000 overseas in the last 13 years, and that supported 750,000 in loans. So that's an indication that the loans are being repaid and the money is being reinvested. Typically, it takes about 6 months for the money to circulate around twice, to be loaned out, repaid, and loaned out again. and then even though we've sent that 160,000 abroad, our partners have taken out 107,000 in earnings for their special projects. So, you know, the multiplication rate is even higher than, you know, what the numbers would suggest.
Wow.
Did I answer all of his questions?
I think there's one, maybe it was, that was a great answer, Elaine, but I think one thing that didn't get touched on was maybe like the loan agreement between the local NGO and the entrepreneur. And that's another place where we leave a lot of discretion up to the local partner. We do have a plethora of templates, what's worked in other places, what's worked in other countries within that region or within that country, that we share, or, you know, so we facilitate materials from one partner to another, essentially in that case. But for, to put a hard number on it, in Latin America, typically what we see is 2 to 3% monthly interest in 6-month loans. Again, that's totally at the discretion of the local partner. If they want to do longer loans, especially for agriculture, sometimes you see that. If they want to have lower interest, that's totally fine. A lot of cases, as Zach touched on at the beginning, we're working with folks that fall outside the formal financial system. So in Colombia, the case is often that they either can't get a loan from the bank or have in the past turned to loan sharks who charge 7 to 8 times that interest rate. And so in that sense, you know, you can really grow your business and grow your own personal income for folks that really need it.
Yeah, there's another objective of our program too, is that we want to help our people enter the formal economy. So once, in several instances, people who have had loans with TCP Global where we don't have any collateral, they don't have to have a credit history to get our loans. But once they've established a good credit history with us, some of our partners have taken the loan recipients to banks and showed their record and helped them qualify for bank loans, so that, you know, we're at the lower level of the economic ladder. We help them to start climbing and become part of the normal economy. And we encourage, for that reason too, we encourage our partners to charge as close as possible to the bank interest rates, so that when they make that leap from our loans to bank loans, it's not a huge increase in interest that they have to pay. And the interest also, it keeps our partners from burning out if they've got money coming in to support their other projects. So obviously the higher the interest rate, the more money they have to do community projects with.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question we have from Alice, and she asks if, as a PCV, can I facilitate for community group, an NGO, to apply while I also am applying for grants through Peace Corps?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, Peace Corps wants the community group to actually, at least in Colombia, Peace Corps wanted the volunteer to connect us to a group, and then TCP Global would do the negotiations with the organizations, hopefully with the PCV at their side. But yeah, it can coexist with a SPA grant or, you know, another grant they're doing.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Let's see, and a reminder to folks, if you do have remaining questions, please put them on out there. There are, I think, a few. Oh, and here, there's clarification on the last question. The question was, can there be one loan per community, even though it ends up being more than one loan to the NGO? This is from a question earlier where they were talking about the number of loans. Does that make sense? Can there be one loan per community, even though it ends up being more than one loan to the NGO? Like, can they get more than one TCP? Does that make sense?
One NGO, there can be multiple NGOs in a community, each having an agreement with TCP Global.
But one agreement and one loan, whatever, one agreement per community organization.
Right, but that agreement, we start with 1,500, and once they've invested that twice, then we send them more. So we let them grow. But it's only one agreement, but they get more money to expand.
But multiple loans. Got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a grant, like someone explained, it's a grant to an organization to issue multiple loans in the community.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
That's an important point of clarification. That yes, we don't give loans. TCP Global does not give loans to these organizations. We give grants to those organizations.
Good clarification. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking to see, and Bethany, my colleague, I'm going to ask you to, if there's any that were missed. I think I got Adam's here. What is the source of TCP funds from NPCA fundraising, Alice asks?
No, well, we raise funds and we direct our donations to the community fund at the National Peace Corps Association, but we drive the funds into the community fund and then we withdraw those funds for our partners. Over the years, we've gotten about 15,000 in Rotary District grants. Friends of Columbia has supported us with about $2,000 a year for quite some time. And then maybe a lot of money has come from individual return Peace Corps volunteers, because Peace Corps people are savvy and they can see that they get a lot of bang for their buck with donations to the Columbia Project, because the dollar goes a lot farther in the developing world. Mm-hmm. And it gets matched every year by repayments in the field from poor people. So their money really has a great impact through TCP Global. And then because we're part of the NPCA, we came to the attention of an anonymous donor in Massachusetts who started off giving us 10,000 and liked what he saw and then gave us 25. And then he gave us 50,000 in May. So wow. And we hope that he'll continue to grow, but he doesn't want to be our only donor. What we really need is more Friends of groups to get involved, like Friends of Colombia has. Friends of Niger and Friends of Nigeria are getting involved in mentors, but we'd like to see some publicity for TCP Global with other Friends of groups so that other RPCVs will help support the program, because RPCVs in the long run are really what's going to make it sustainable, to at least supplement what the major donors give. But so far, we've never been in the position where we didn't have money to expand a program. You know, if we kept building it and they kept coming. So hopefully that will continue.
Great information, Helene. We appreciate that. There's another interesting question in the queue from, let's see, from Adam. It's a follow-up question, or it's part two. Fish farmers we worked with in Zambia have often asked for loans. In our village, they're not officially organized as an NGO, but sometimes work together as a village collective. As you said, Peace Corps cannot directly count as the NGO beyond PCVs helping to facilitate. What would you recommend for small-scale fish farmers to be able to participate? Do they need to form an NGO?
If they can't form an NGO, perhaps if Friends of Zambia would be willing to serve as their 501c3, then NPCA could release funds to Friends of Zambia, who might then have a relationship with the fish farmers. Another avenue that we're trying to open is, you know, Peace Corps has a collaborative agreement with Rotary. And Rotary clubs around the world are interested in finding ways to work with and support Peace Corps volunteers. So if there was a local Rotary club in Zambia who would be willing to be like the fiscal agent for those fish farmers, that would be another possibility.
Great, wonderful. Someone just had a comment. Someone just had a comment. Cecilia said, so happy to see that there's a Rotary Peace Corps connection here. I know they are a challenge in their global grants, but glad to see you are getting district grants. I'm a 25-year Rotarian, so thank you.
Oh, excellent. I just finished being president of my Rotary Club.
Oh, small world. Wonderful. I don't see any other questions. Have I missed something, Bethany? I'm looking, it's hard to kind of just skim through them really quickly. If you do have a question from earlier and it hasn't been answered, go ahead and just enter it again and it'll be at the bottom of the feed, and we do have about 5 more minutes before the top of the hour, and I know that they'd be happy to answer any of your questions. This has been really, really informative. Thank you.
And I have one more suggestion for the Zambia. I see that
great.
Rotary might not be active there, but if there's a nearby, like Calvin's organization was also in Zambia, if the fish farmers were close to Calvin's organizations, Kabuchi, perhaps they could be like a satellite of that club. You know, we could work out an arrangement like that, but the NPCA must release funds to a registered organization.
Right. What we did in Zambia, we were fairly close to Iboma, so we had to go back and forth a little bit to be able to register, and we eventually went to go get a T-pin, and I think one of our members had to go to the whole way down to Lusaka at one point to have it all registered, so it does take some time. And I believe Adam was in Northern Province, so it may be even longer for him. So.
Yeah, in Uganda right now, we have an organization in the Yumbe district, and there's like an umbrella organization that's helping 8 women's groups that are less formally established, and the umbrella organization is bringing the funds into the money into the country. They're also doing the reporting, but they're facilitating so that these 8 women's groups can have microloans. So that's one thing the mentor can help with, to find creative ways that we can make this work.
I just wanted to jump in here quick too, and kind of explain the relationship between TCP Global and NPCA a little bit, just for transparency. So TCP Global is an affiliate group and a partner of NPCA, and we have a cooperative agreement with them. And since NPCA is a 501c3, we have the ability to solicit and distribute funds. So we basically are that partner for TCP Global. So we collect all of the grant funding that they do to be able to put out their grants. And then we handle all of the transfer process. So we send all the international wire transfers and take care of all of that on our end. So that's our working relationship with TCP. And then obviously, of course, being the connector and the resource to help spread awareness about their mission and their organization within our RPC community. But just wanted to make that aware in case nobody quite understood that function of how NPCA fit into all of this.
Yeah, NPCA does all the paperwork and that not fun stuff, so we get to do the development work.
Yeah, we take care of all the messy work behind the scenes.
Right.
We definitely work
That is great.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah, we can, you know, we will definitely troubleshoot issues on the backside with you, but we'll take care of it.
All right. Any final questions? I'm sorry, Elise, you wanted to say something? Oh, it went to you for a moment. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking.
Oh, I don't think I wanted to say anything unless anyone had any more questions.
Sorry, it just went as if you were talking with the little, you know, border, and I thought maybe I had started and talked over you, so I apologize. Do we have any other final questions for maybe one final question for our kind presenters here today? Any?
I see one here. Have you done any loans in Ukraine or Eastern Europe?
Oh, yeah, that one just came in.
We certainly have tried, and actually the guy who did the that nice video for us, he was a former volunteer from the Ukraine.
Oh.
You know, I was a volunteer in Slovakia, and my observation was they're a lot more strict and rigid in Eastern Europe than in Latin America. Like in South America, the government recognizes that they're not giving services to poor people, so they don't get real strict about things like, oh, are you making that food in a, you know, in a kosher kitchen or whatever, you know, so they'll tolerate people making food by the street side and selling it. They don't tolerate those kinds of informal businesses so much in Eastern Europe. But we certainly would do loans in Eastern Europe, and every time I go to Slovakia, I try to find someone to do loans, but so far it doesn't work. But we're open to it.
All right, little by little, one step at a time. At this point, I do want to, there was a question that said, are presenters willing to be contacted after this? And what I would ask is if you're willing to share either your LinkedIn profile address or your email, if people did want to follow up. That said, you do have the connect with us listed here on the slide. You could certainly go that route as well. But I do want to remind the participants, if you want to access any of that information, there's been great information in the chat box here. If you want to access any of that, be sure to download the chat box. And to do that, you simply go to the bottom of the chat box where you have the 3 dots inside the little square. Click on that and choose download chat, and it'll download it to, when you download Zoom, it'll go into your Zoom folder on your laptop, for example. So then you could access that at a later time. And I also want to remind folks to, if you do want to get a copy of this, PowerPoint, the presentation that they used, and you can do that easily, or to be contacted about, opportunities, more information about these kinds of great, the TCP program. You can certainly fill out that little Google form, and I just put it again closer to the bottom. If you fill that survey form, it's like 3 questions. It's basically your name and your email address, whatever. They'll reach out to you and share both the presentation, and then you can be in touch about opportunities and things like that. So if there are not any final questions here, let me just look. It looks like people are, just saying thank you, and really fantastic presentation. I would second that. This was really helpful, and just in explaining how the program works. I think a lot of RPCVs, will be very interested in this, and I'm excited to also post it on our global reentry playlist, which I did put into the chat box earlier as well. You can go there and see most all of our recordings that we do, including this one will eventually be there. So you can listen to it again or share it with friends. Getting the word out is, I think, key. And I just want to thank all of our presenters from TCP Global tonight. You've just done a phenomenal job, and we really, really appreciate it.
And thank you to the NPCA for making this opportunity available to us.
Our pleasure. We are happy to assist, and especially bring great programs like this, to the public eye. So thanks, everyone, and have a great night.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Jody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.